Hello, everybody. This is Nish here again, and it's a great pleasure and a joy to once again connect with Waleuska Lazo and share such important and useful insights into childhood parenting. And she's an author of 3 books and finished her 4th manuscript. And let me talk to her, let me get straight to the point. And we are basically talking today about unconscious parenting. And are we approaching our children from a point of fear, or are we approaching from a point of love? So I will let Waleuska, mother of 2 beautiful children, Victoria and Emma, speak about this. So please tell us what are your views?
Thank you, Nish. Yes, and that is a great question for every parent to ponder upon. I think that as parents, we are programmed to believe that we live in a highly competitive Darwinian society where survival of the fittest is the underlying foundation of human nature. So that causes parents, me included, to frantically look at giving our kids all the skills necessary to meet the demands of a fast-paced and ever-changing world. And so the consequence is that our kids are asked to do things and perform at levels that we never did when we were their age. And I think the underlying foundation here is that every parent wants their child to be successful, to be happy and well-adjusted. And in that excitement, we tend to create the blueprint for their life. You know, we fantasize about who they're going to be when they grow up, the things they will accomplish, the jobs they're going to have, the lives that they will live, the athletes, right, they're going to be, and the person they're going to marry. And that's okay, you know, to do, as long as we're not designing a blueprint that it's all our unmet goals and the things that we didn't get to do, and now we're trying to live it through our children. Because then the fear, we as parents develop this fear that our children won't succeed or conquer the world unless certain conditions are provided, unless certain behaviors are cultivated and certain milestones are achieved. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as we're not coming at it from a place of fear. It's very important to know that.
I think this is happening all over the world. In India, it's very much true, you know, and what you said is, I think we don't facilitate or enable our children. We dictate, so to speak, their lives, you know, how they are going to be and what they are going to do. So what do you think is going to happen to the children when we are doing this to them? What goes in their mind or their hearts?
Well, I think it's, you know, we first need to realize as parents that a lot of what we do, you know, we do out of love, you know. You know, we don't set to go and harm them. You know, every action, I believe that, you know, parents do take for their children is for their well-being. The danger is that sometimes the actions that we think are doing good to our children are actually doing the opposite. And that's where the term unconscious parenting comes from. And we have to become conscious of, you know, what we say and what we do, and the subliminal message that we are sending to our child, because a lot of our actions as young parents are fear driven. You know, we always have this fear in the back of our head, especially, you know, first time parents, is that our children will not succeed unless we intervene and overprotect and orchestrate their every move. And I think we mean well.
Of course, yes.
But we have to be aware or careful that we are not transferring our anxiety and our fears onto our children. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So what I was going to add is that in that process, we tend to micromanage and push our kids to perform at a level of perfection that is unhealthy and unattainable. And what they end up with is what the former dean from Stanford University, Julie Lithgoth, calls a checklisted childhood. And that is such a powerful term. And it was a huge awakening for me, because that is really what we do to our children. You know, we have this long checklist as to everything they're going to do. And I was a master at that checklist. You know, my kids were going to play the piano, speak 4 languages, and be on the debate team and go to Harvard. And, you know, and it's so I ended up having them have it, instead of being children, what we give them is a checklisted life. And as parents, again, we have to become conscious that on the one hand, we are constantly worrying, are they eating healthy? Are they drinking enough water? Making sure they're not consuming too much sugar. And the big one that I hear everywhere at the schools and other parents is the amount of time that our children are spending on the computer, on the iPad, on their phones, on TV. And yet, on the other hand, which I find ironic, is that we are okay to deprive them of their sleep, to wake them up early to go to a practice before school for a sport or extracurricular activities. And we are okay to see them go to sleep late at night, starting for a do or die test. And I am guilty of that. And the worst is that we feel that it's acceptable to overload our children with very long days above and beyond the time that they're at school, because now they have after school tutors just to keep up with the demands. And so for me as a parent, I had to take a step back and really think, how is this okay? How is it okay? And are we accepting of those sacrifices that our kids are doing, as long as we get to check one more item on our checklist, right? Yes. And the biggest question is, are we pushing our kids to perform at, highly competitive levels because we want them to, walk this yellow brick road that we designed for them in the hopes that they will find the golden ticket to happiness? And whose happiness, Nish? If we are honest, is whose goals are we talking about? Our children or our own?
Our own goals. And there are a couple of things, from what you're saying. One is that I read somewhere that 35% of the jobs that are going to be in the future are about skills that don't exist today, or the jobs that don't exist today. Then another thing is that, a lot of mothers especially, they are giving up so much of their own life to do whatever they have to do with the kids. So what do you think about all this?
Absolutely. I think that, because we want the best for our kids, we become so focused on so focused on our children's ability to fulfill the blueprint that we designed for them, that we forget about ourselves. We also forget about just being parents. And what happens is we become everything to them, from their advocate to their coach, to their tutor. We become their maid, their concierge, their driver. And yes, what we need to do is really take a step back and really spend quality time with our kids. And the sad reality is that the little time that we get to see them, because they're so overwhelmed with so many activities, is instead of, really loving them and communicating to them how proud and accepting we are of who they are, we spend that precious little time nagging them and constantly pushing and reminding them of their responsibilities. And the biggest danger, and I can't stress this enough because I walked that path, especially for moms out there, we become so focused on that dream, on our children's dreams, that we forget to have dreams of our own. And when we're constantly intervening in our children's life, we think that we are doing them a favor, but in fact, what we are telling our children through those actions is that we don't have trust in them. That we have to micromanage every second of their life because we fear that if left to their own devices, they won't be able to achieve their goals. And that's a very dangerous message to send to our kids, you know, that you don't have faith in them, that we're not trusting them. And so I think that as parents, sometimes we don't realize what we are unconsciously communicating to them. And we also have to become aware that a lot of what we do is we are projecting.
Yes.
We're constantly projecting our own fears and our own lack of trust and our anxieties and insecurities to our children.
And what you said about, you know, the mothers giving up so much of their own dreams, especially when it comes to girl children. You have two beautiful daughters, and aren't we teaching them that when you grow up and become a mom, this is what you need to do, give up your dreams for?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was teaching my children. I thought that by giving up everything in my life and focusing on them, making sure that their dreams become a reality. And, you know, I forgot for a period of, you know, a few years that I had the responsibility to also have a life of my own, to have my own dreams, to have my own goals. So unconsciously, what my girls were learning is that when they become women themselves, they will also give up their dreams and their self-care to make somebody else's dreams come true. Okay, that is the unconscious parenting. And then what I realized is that by me showing them that I have dreams of my own, that I have my own responsibilities to fulfill and my own goals to achieve, then now I am actually teaching my children that when they become women, that it's okay to help your children with their dreams, but never to forget yourself. I think that self-care and self-love as a parent is number one, because that is the one skill that you want your children to model. And if what you're teaching them is that you're gonna give up everything for somebody else, that is exactly what they will do when they become adults. So we're not raising at that point children that are gonna become resilient. We're raising kids that are gonna become codependent. You know, we're raising women that are gonna become codependent on their husbands, partner, boyfriend, boss, whatever that is. And what we want is to raise individuals that are gonna be grateful, that will have compassion and empathy, and be extremely resilient, to have emotional intelligence. And the only way that we can do that, parents, is by us being those things right now, so that we are modeling for them what it's like to be all those things. We can't expect the schools to do it or society to do it, because they are looking at us. You know, we become their first source of modeling, right? They're constantly watching. My girls don't say much, but they're sponges. They're constantly absorbing everything that I do and say, right? So we want to make sure that we are really parenting our children from a place of love, not so much fear, and that we are, you know, that through our example, we're showing them that we don't have to intervene constantly in their lives, that we don't have to hover over them because we don't trust, you know, that they can do it on their own. We want to tell them the opposite. We want to give them that space. You know, we need to step back and do our best, you know, to give them a great foundation. Our job as parents is not to make their dreams come true, but to provide the conditions in which our children can thrive so that they can achieve their own dreams. And those dreams may be different than my dreams. You know, I used to have all kinds of dreams for my girl. My oldest daughter, my dream was she's gonna go to Harvard, and when she goes to university, she's gonna go to the States and go there. And it's the opposite. She wants to stay in Canada. She doesn't want to go away. She wants to stay near her horse. And I had to learn to let go, because what I was doing is trying to live all my unfulfilled dreams through her. So
I think it's very true in India that a lot of mothers, especially, they live their life through their children. You know, because A lot of them are homemakers and they don't pursue a career, lots of them. And then they, whatever they want, they make their kids do. And that is how they live their life, through their kids. And I think it's really dangerous. And that is something that we need to speak about in the next upcoming episode, about what happens in this whole, sequence of mother giving up her life for her daughter or her son, and how that impacts the mother and how it's going to impact the child now and when the child grows up to become an adult, So that is something we are going to talk in the coming episode. And thank you so much, Waleuska. This was really great. Any parting remarks that you want to tell us?
Oh, I just think that this is a very powerful topic, obviously something that we cannot cover in a short period of time. We're trying to keep this episode short and sweet so that you keep coming back and listening to us. So on the next episode, we will go more in depth about, how we can really help our kids and equip them to be the kind of adults that we dream for them to be.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure talking to you. And we'll come back soon again, everybody. Watch out for us. Watch out for Waleuska Lazo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you.